Mombierella here. So, we went to see the new Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, and I wanted to share my review with you guys. So there's so many negative reviews out there, I had to ask myself, is it even possible for a movie to actually be this bad? Because people have literally hated this movie to the point where it seems unrealistic. So of course I had to go see it, and now I want to share with you guys my thoughts on it. First off, no spoilers till later, and I'll warn you. If you're an Indiana Jones fan and you love everything about the franchise and have seen all the movies, and you have memorabilia of your own to prove it, then those who were brave enough to see the Crystal Skull should probably check this one out. It's in the Indiana Jones franchise, but fair warning, if you are not an Indiana Jones fan at all, this movie will probably not make you one. Let's get into a few details. If you don't know what it's about yet, the time frame is going to be an older Indiana Jones, and here's the situation he starts off with, and you'll find this out very quickly, so I don't feel like this is a spoiler by any means. First off, Mud, their son, is dead, and he apparently died in the war. They don't really go into too much detail about it, but it's obviously been something that was a real strain on Marion and Indy's marriage, and you learn that Marion and Indy are separated right now, or not together right now. And so there is the premise that Indy is alone and frustrated and sad. He literally, in the first few minutes, goes to the neighbor's house and tells them to be quiet with a baseball bat in his hand because he's just not the same person. And I guess I get what they were going for. Like, the trauma, the issues that he was going through, obviously we're supposed to have altered how he saw the world, how he responded to things. And I do understand the idea behind it, but even in my head watching it, I really just, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see Indy as this pitiful, old, almost decrepit version of himself in some ways that they were trying to make him. And I just saw Indiana Jones. I mean, there was a scene very early on, like very beginning of the movie, and he's literally sitting in his chair in boxer shorts with no shirt. And I'm thinking, even for a man his age, he's still in good shape. And honestly, I don't see it. I don't see him as the sad old man. I just don't. I love how the movie starts at the beginning, though. The whole first scene is a flashback from when he was younger. It's obviously a CGI kind of thing with his face because he's young through the whole first scene. It is a great scene, honestly. It's very Indiana Jones. The adventure is there, the energy, and there's a contrast between his friend at the time, who's older, and him now in the present of the movie that takes place later on. And it's playing off that he was young, he was energetic. And this new character that they introduced, Helena Shaw, is the daughter of the man from the beginning of the movie that was the older one, and the younger Indy was with. Well, he was just worn out, and you get the impression that that's what they were going for with Indy, that he was now the older person. And you find out that Helena is Helena Shaw, which is the daughter of the friend he had at the beginning, and his goddaughter, apparently. Well, how do I talk about this character? So, Helena Shaw is played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and I have to say, she is the weakest link in this whole movie. I'm sorry. I do have to agree with a lot of the other reviews. I'll come back to that, but let me just say there was a lot of moments that I was lost on what she was portraying with the character. There was a scene where she was supposed to be, I believe, kind of a femme fatale, kind of, you know, dangerous, almost romantic, and her way of dealing with this other person that just kind of shows up. And he's not a main character or anything. He's only in it for a little while, but I didn't get the sexiness that she was supposed to be portraying of it because it just wasn't coming through. Yeah, it just, I'm sorry, it wasn't there. And her character was trying to be a little covert at one point and then change characters. And I just really got the feeling of a almost snarky teenager when it came to her character, like someone who's acting out against their parents and frustrated at the world. I got that. There was one point she did something that made me laugh in the movie. I felt like the movie was lacking a lot of the classic Indiana Jones humor. That was one thing that I really felt was lacking in it. Because, you know, you watch the classic Indiana Jones, even the new one, the Crystal Skull, like there's definitely humor in Indiana Jones. And I laughed maybe twice in this whole movie. And that kind of makes me sad to think about that. Because honestly, I am a big Indiana Jones fan. However, obviously this is not my jacket. I stole this from my husband. Sorry. Thanks, honey. Anyway, that was definitely one thing about the movie that kind of was disappointing in a way. But here's something that I loved. Like I said, I'll get to spoilers in a little bit. But I absolutely loved that Sala was in it from the original Indiana Jones. You can't have an Indiana Jones without him at this point. He's just, I mean, honestly, John Rhys Davies is an amazing actor. I love seeing him in anything, actually. I used to watch Sliders, and I loved that show, too. He was in there. Sala, I felt like, was really one of the characters in this from the original that was 100% true to form. You know, they did play him off as, okay, well, they're older now, so they're not as cool. You know, and that was a strong message, obviously, and it's just like, okay, so the whole movie is sitting there going, hey, boomer, you know. That was weird to me. I mean, I do get the premise, like I said, you know, that they're trying to maybe kind of push, we all get older and things change, time changes, time marches on. But if you love Indiana Jones, then you don't care. You don't care about their age. You don't care about how much time has passed. You just love Indiana Jones. I mean, honestly, it's epic. It's its own fandom, and there's no arguing with that. And honestly, there's no handing that off ever. I mean, I agree that when the Indiana Jones franchise ends, I think that's going to be it. I mean, it's like, honestly, Jack Sparrow. There's no other Jack Sparrow. Nobody's going to take Jack Sparrow's place. That's who that is. Now, honestly, if Disney would do something amazingly unique and come up with a new story, they could always do that. But they seem to be struggling with that lately. Yeah. Don't get me started on that. Anyway, okay. So I'm probably going to get into a little bit of actual spoilers at this point. But, so if you haven't seen it and you don't want to watch this, you know, fair warning. So there's a boy in the movie, and he's obviously supposed to be the Short Round 2.0 version of the character. You know, Short Round was adorable. He was funny. He was there when they needed him, and you couldn't help but love this kid, right? So this kid's name is Teddy in the movie, and he's played by Ethan Isidore. I think I'm saying that right. And it was interesting casting, let me say. He wasn't as young as Short Round, so he was old enough to have a mustache growing that was obvious. He wasn't old enough to be, you know, the quirky sidekick like Sala, you know, in some ways, character. Like I said, this is spoilers, and I'm going to be absolutely honest. He was kind of completely a neutral character in his likability, I felt no connection to him. Like, I didn't find him cute. I didn't find him adorable. I didn't find him funny. I didn't find him anything. He just seemed like a convenient character to get from point A to point B, and he popped up, whenever they needed him. And honestly, I don't even know why they did it that way. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be ugly about it. Honestly, I swear, this is my 100% honest opinion. And the movie without him, I don't know that it would have been lacking anything. They could have done most of this on their own. He flew a plane at one point that caught the characters when they were following Indy, and Helena fell out of a plane and he caught them. And obviously he was from point A to point B there. It's like there was a few times that's just what he was. And there's a scene where they kidnap him, and it's very, very reminiscent of the scene where they kidnap Marion Ravenwood. And Indy's like, well, we got to go get him. And in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, why does Indy feel obligated to go get this kid and risk his life? And I guess the point was, oh, he's a kid. But I literally could not feel connected to this character as a character in the thing. It's like he was almost forgettable. Sorry to Ethan, but sorry to Ethan who played the part of Teddy. But yeah, no, I didn't see it. And then, of course, Helena. Let me get back to her. This is just painful to talk about. Yeah, honestly. Like, she was awkward and clunky in her role, and just, it felt like she was trying to fit into a part that she just couldn't quite get her mind wrapped around. She did okay if she'd have played it like the kind of quirky bookworm the whole time. That's how she basically started, and I think that she could have done it that way, really, but the way that they set her up to play it, where she was all covert, almost spy-like sometimes, criminal mastermind at other times, the alluring female at one point, I just didn't see it. And 100%, the character Helena and Teddy just seemed like a couple of siblings who were trying to find their place in the world. That's what I gathered from them. And if they'd have meant to play it that way, I think it would have been probably better in its own right. I mean, the characters just didn't mesh well into the whole Indiana Jones genre. I mean, I was very doubtful that this was a horrible movie, and I won't say it is. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it is probably the worst Indiana Jones movie. If you were to measure up the Indiana Jones movies of the whole Indiana Jones franchise, I think, honestly, number one would be Last Crusade, because, hey, it had Sean Connery, and I love Sean Connery, and everybody loves Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, of course. So that's going to be the top pick for me, and I'm assuming like most people would actually pick that as their top pick. Then, of course, the original Indiana Jones, because Marion Ravenwood is absolutely epic. She's my favorite female from the Indiana Jones franchise, 100%. And speaking of which, Marion does show up in the end of the movie for Dial of Destiny, and Indy had been hurt, and so they're basically kind of reconciling at the end of this, and I thought it was sweet. Some people said they thought it was weird that she popped up out of nowhere, but I mean, honestly, even if I was angry at someone that I had truly cared about and invested into, like a large portion of my life, like they obviously were supposed to have in the movie, or as the characters, then I'd show up for them. I'd imagine most people would. And that's what it seems like Marion had done. She had shown up because Indy was hurt. He was hurt badly. I told you these are spoilers at this point. And yeah, Indy was shot towards the end of the movie. Now, I do feel like the ending was a bit abrupt, Like, there could have been more there with Marion and Indy. They just kind of were like, okay, we're going to reconcile. It's been hard. We still love each other. But I felt like there should have been a little bit more there, a little more closure to the ending of the movie. But the movie was long. And I'll be honest, I'm the kind of person who gets so into a fandom, I would sit through a marathon of it. Like, if they'd made the Lord of the Rings one long movie, I'd have sat through it. Hopefully there'd be intermissions. But Indiana Jones, I was like, this was a long movie. And if it had been The Last Crusade and been this long, it would have been utterly epic. With this one, it was long. It felt long. There were a few things to this movie beyond that I wanted to say. I did not realize Antonio Banderas was in this movie, and I felt so stupid that I didn't know he was in there. But his character was very kind of short-lived in it, and he died so unceremoniously. Oh, sorry, spoiler. Yeah, they shot him, and he died, like, instantly. There was no, like, death scene where you watched him die, and he got last words. Like, he was just gone. Character gone. Yeah. Bye-bye, Antonio Banderas. And Indy did actually get upset because Helena jokes about something, and he's like, my friend just died. So, I mean, there was that. That was about as much fanfare as he got for his death, and then he was just gone. But in the scene with Antonio Banderas, they are diving at one point, and they say, okay, we're going to go down 300 feet. And as a scuba diver myself, I'm cringing watching this because, number one, when you're down on a deep dive, there is no sunlight, which there obviously was. So it was weird. And then also, they went down so fast, they had these helmets on, so, like, there's no clearing their ears, and I was wondering about that. I mean, I don't know, I've never done a helmet dive, so do you not need to clear your ears? Because that doesn't seem right. But I guess you really can't. A few other things I could say, for instance, I could talk about the really awkward running that Phoebe Waller-Bridge does. She has this weird leg thing that when she's running, like, there's these scenes where, they're running, and I'm not a runner, so I don't know, but, like, Indy looks natural, I mean, he's all, like, trucking it, and he's 80 years old. But she had this weird, like, you know how those lizards' legs kind of go wide? Yeah, that was weird. Also, like, nothing against this because, I mean, obviously, she can't help it. She was born with it. But she has this birthmark, which, that's fine, whatever. But they cover it up completely until the scuba diving scene. And then, like, the whole rest of the movie, it's showing, well, I didn't realize she had a birthmark. I did not know. I'm not one who's seen a lot of her stuff or anything. I know she played in Fleabag, and I'm sure probably other stuff, but I've never really seen it. So when her birthmark showed up, at first I thought it was like dirt on her head, and I kept thinking, why don't they just wipe that off? Well, I finally realized, like, oh my gosh, that's actually a birthmark. So they had it covered so much the whole time with her hair or her hat or whatever that it threw me off to see it for the whole rest of the movie. And it was like the whole rest of the movie, it was the side that the camera was on, it seemed like. I don't know why. It was just weird to me. But like I said, I'm not saying anything bad about the birthmark itself. It was just weird that it was completely covered for like half the movie where she was in it, and then all of a sudden it was there the whole rest of the time. Like, her hair never even like falls over that side. It's just kept back the whole time. The villain in this movie is Jurgen Baller by Mads Mikkelsen, and I think he actually did a great job. I think he's an amazing actor, and though I'll say this, his role seemed fairly limited on some things. Like, he is, he's a Nazi from the beginning. So this is 1969, it's the moon landing has happened, and Jurgen Baller, the villain, is trying to somehow use the moon landing to his advantage. He gets invited to America. It's rather unclear what exactly was going on, in my opinion, but there's a group of American agents, and he's brought some basically like full-on thugs who are just shooting people, like, just shooting people willy-nilly whenever they felt like, oh, well, we don't want them in their way. And so there's a African-American agent that's working with him in 1969, and he's using a pseudonym or a different name. He's an assumed identity, and they don't know he's German. They don't know he was a Nazi. And then finally, like, you keep thinking they're going to shoot this agent, like, at any point now, because they're just shooting everybody. Well, finally, she ends up on the airplane with him, and he's like, oh, well, my name's not calling me. It's Jurgen Baller. I'm a Nazi. And it's kind of anticlimactic, honestly, because you already knew he was a Nazi. Like, as watching the movie, we knew all that already. And it's like, and she doesn't even, like, have a response because she's dying. They just shot her, and she just kind of dies. So there's that. Like I said, his role seems fairly limited. I think it was a script issue, maybe. I don't know. Some of the script, though, there did seem to be like a continuity issue where they stuck scenes in just to make it where it connected with the next scene, like almost out of place entirely. It didn't really mesh well on some of that. It was odd. Like, I found those scenes that seemed like they were trying to mend one scene to the next almost boring because they just kind of lagged a bit. There was nothing impressive about some of the scenes that were just trying to get you from one section of the movie to the next, it seemed like. But anyway, so Jurgen Baller is this Nazi that he meets at the beginning of the movie when he's younger, and that's where they get the Dial of Destiny, is all the artifacts that the Nazis have collected. They're trying to take to the Fuhrer, Hitler, and Indy ends up, his friend Shaw, that's Helena, the character Helena's father, finds this Dial of Destiny, and he knows what it is, and there's two parts to it, so he takes this one part from the Nazis, and Indy takes it. Well, Jurgen's apparently been looking for it forever. Indy's got it locked up in a bunch of artifacts you find out later. He takes Helena because she wants it. Well, she's just wanting to sell it, so she really doesn't care about any of it. She wanted it supposedly because her dad was obsessed with it, and then you find out later, like, it was this huge deal about her dad obsessing over it. Anyway, so the whole thing about the dial is that Jörg wants to take it and go back in time and actually kill Hitler himself and take his place. I didn't feel like that was like a really detailed point of view of his plan. I don't know. He wanted to rule the world, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, he played the part well, like I said, but I felt like it limited him to, all he had to work with was what he had to work with. So they end up going back in time, and of course Helena and Teddy and Indy and the bad guys all end up going back in time. And there's this ancient battle going on. Well, in the end, the bad guys all die and their plane crashes. And then Indy gets shot by one before they're all gone. And he's like seriously injured. And Helena obviously is supposed to realize that, well, I can't leave you here because, well, he actually got shot before they got back in time. But they took him with them. They were actually unreasonably rough on him, actually, after he was shot. But he was kind of back and forth between like doing really terribly and no, oh, it's okay, I'm fine. So I got a very Monty Python and the Holy Grail kind of thing in my head, 'tis but a flesh wound. But he's Indy, I guess he's going to push through. I don't know. Anyway, so they're in the ancient times. The Nazi plane crashes and Teddy saves the day because as they fall out of the plane before it crashes, he catches them in an alternate plane. Like I said, he's like point A to point B. He's there when it's convenient. So they land that plane for now, and Indy's injured really badly. Apparently, he thinks he's going to die, and he just figures, leave me in the past. Well, Helena apparently decides, I'm not going to do that, which is good because I'd rather Indy not die, honestly, like, especially not like that. I don't know about anybody else, but I was very upset at the thought that they might kill Indy off in this series of the movie. Like, torches and pitchfork, unacceptable. Okay, no. So, have fun storming the castle. So she's so worried about him messing up the timeline, leaving him back in time. But here was the funny thing to me is they leave an entire Nazi airplane in ancient times. And they're not worried about that changing anything or messing anything up. Whole bunch of electronics and artifact pieces. No worries. Indiana Jones, no, you'll mess everything up. You can't stay here. But we don't want you to die because torches and pitchforks, So she knocks him out and makes him go anyway, which that was actually probably one of the times that was laughable. Like, that was funny. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of those moments, but yeah. That was something that the Crystal Skull got that this one did not, was the humor, honestly. But so he goes back. That's where he sees Marion, and movie over. So that was it. That was the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Like I said, if you're not an Indiana Jones fan already, this won't make you one, in my opinion, but you never know. I mean, it's like watching Star Wars in chronological order. Yeah, don't do that. If you haven't watched Star Wars, start with episode 5. Okay. Anyway, it's worth adding to the Indiana Jones franchise just if you're an Indiana Jones fan, but I think they could have done something a lot better. Personally, yes, I do. And on that scale there, Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, it's like I don't know if they're even or if Crystal Skull's a little better. And I definitely put it at the bottom of the scale, Indiana Jones level. But that is my review, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. If you haven't had a chance to yet, please take a second, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, comment down below, share with a friend, and drop by on Wednesday mornings. We do a podcast with me and my co-host CJ Peterson and Yukita Cosplay. Definitely check us out. I'm meeting the Hocus Pocus cast this weekend at Lone Star Heroes Comics and Toys. I hope I said the whole name. In Lake Jackson. And that's going to be amazing because Doug Jones, who played Billy Butcherson, is going to be there. He's an amazing actor. He's done so many awesome parts. Like he's like the Lon Chaney of modern day. Then the 2 bullies from the original Hocus Pocus movie will be there, as well as the 3 girls who played the younger Sanderson sisters are going to be there as well. And so I'm excited. I'll have a table, and Yukita Cosplay will be there with me as well. So y'all come say hi if you're there. Also, I have Eastern Rim coming up. This is my first time going to that one. Terror Fest is in October, and there's a few things coming up. So don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming adventures, fun, magic that's coming on. Love you guys. Remember, let it go. Keep moving forward. Keep the adventure going. Until next time, have a magical day. Bye.